Hello, everybody. Could someone let us know if you can hear us here? Here we go. We're in, we're here. All right, we got you. Thank you. All right. You got some private moments there. Hello. Thank you. Thank you. It's our first webinar, so it's very different than the meetings on Zoom. So here we are. All right, so we got a bunch more people scheduled to attend, so we will get started right about 5 past, I would say. If, oh, Carol's here too. Hello, Carol. If anyone has any questions beforehand, you can type them in now as we get through. We're going to talk a little bit about the company, and then we'll get into the Flex itself. And right at the end, we will hold some Q&A, and there's a special discount we'll have for you guys, and I'll put the link and the discount code in the chat too. Excellent. Just a couple minutes and we'll get started so we're not wasting anybody's time. If you guys could just put in the chat just to keep yourselves busy, let us know where you are. And, you know, maybe let us know if you've taken the Flex yet and what subject or subject you'd be interested in. Just to see who we have with us here. And chat disabled. All right, let's see here. Yeah. I don't know why the chat's disabled, but looks like the Q&A is working.
Let's see. Oh, I think that the chat, it's saying the chat is just open to hosts and panelists.
Oh, is there a way to kind of change that? I don't know. So be gentle with us here, our first time doing these. Now, here we go. All right, now we have everyone can chat. All right. All right, another minute here and we'll get started. All right, chat is enabled. Excellent. Maria, I can see your chat, but we can't see you. Yep. All right. So, hello, everybody. My name is Chuck Zucco, as you can see, and I'm here with Andrew Frassa.
Hello.
And let me share my screen with you here. All right, so this is our first webinar, as you can probably tell. We're a little clunky over here. So I want to take a few minutes to just let you know what we've been doing, what this company has been, and then we'll get into the Flex itself. We'll take some Q&A, and you know, people willing to sign up, if they're interested in the services we have here for the Flex, we'll have a little bit of a discount for you. All right. So we've been in business for almost 24 years. I started this company way back in 1999. I was doing SAT prep at the time. And, I took an MTEL and said, gee, I can kind of help people pass this. And the rest is history. I've been doing it for the communication literacy all that time. And then the students kept asking me for help for other tests. So I, started looking into the exams like the early childhood and the then elementary test. And there was a special ed test back in those days. And I said, I don't know much about little kids. And they said, no, it's about math and history and everything else. So we started programs and we've been rolling along ever since. We're a local small business. We're public school educators. I've been hired and worked with many public school districts, colleges. I'm doing a program for Endicott College right now. There've been thousands of students over the years. You guys might know Andrew from classes or Bill Fuller, who's taught for 10 plus years now. And Karen Milano is here with us. She's been working with me. It's been maybe 15 years off and on. She's the best foundations of reading person in existence. We've always guaranteed our success here. So people have been able to repeat classes unconditionally. I realized early on that, people come to us different places. They may need more time than others. They may have, issues with learning ESL. So I didn't think it was fair to expect people to kind of go through one time and have to pass. So again, it's a special educator kind of company, and the curriculum has been designed by special educators. So what we do, kind of starting from the basics and building right on top of every little part, it works for people who've been in special ed, have any kind of learning difficulties or issues. ESL, people been out of school for 20, 30, 40 years, career changes and such. It's been successful for just about anybody. I think we're very different than most other programs. And I think the way Carol and I work are very similar. And that's why we've really worked well together and referred people to each other over the years. We actually teach and instruct. I know some of the bigger programs out there kind of do webinar-based things, and they kind of talk at you and let you kind of figure things out on your own, just with giving you a ton of information. We actually try to teach and instruct, and strategies are very much a part of what we do. Very important part of what we do. The real goal is to have you feel confident going into the exam. Questions are encouraged. I know other programs really don't, encourage questions or allow any time for questions. It's a big part of what we do. We cover all the skills you need for any exam that we prep you for, from the basic to the advanced. And as I've said, test-taking strategies are really a key part of what we do, knowing why you're doing what you're doing, what the test makers are looking for, all very important things that give you the confidence you need to go in and pass a test, especially if you're taking the test. People could take it a dozen or more times, and you're going in again. Knowing what to expect and why things are there are pretty important. Everybody's going to say this, but we really care about our students. I'm available through our Facebook group. People text me, message me all the time. Our classes are small, and through Facebook and social media, we've really developed a nice little community of very supportive educators and learners that we've been able to kind of work together and figure things out. If I don't know the answer to a problem, we might have 300 or 400 people in our Facebook group now. Someone will know and know how to help you out, or to whom to refer you, or whatever is necessary. What we do, we have live Zoom classes. We have self-paced video programs. Tutoring is always available. And of course, the MTEL FLEX consultation and review that we'll be highlighting tonight. Zoom classes, again, these are always been guaranteed, so they can be repeated for no cost. I'm not going to get into great detail here, but we've done communication literacy for decades, general curriculum. Early childhood is new. A lot of you guys probably realize that. And I'm working with some of our students, really looking at, what the test is like and how to best prepare people. The alternatives to the communication literacy, reading and writing. We have new programs we're developing that will be out this spring. And Foundations of Reading via Carol's website is also available. And going through our website, you can access any of these things, including Carol's programs. We have a bunch of self-paced video programs available too, and you have lifetime access, so those are essentially guaranteed as well. And again, people contact me with questions if they're going through it and they're not sure. It's not like we're inaccessible when once you buy one of our programs. Communication literacy, some of the alternatives to the communication literacy, and I'm developing more as we go on. General curriculum math, Carol's Foundations of Reading program is there. And we're kind of expanding. The VCLA is the Virginia Communication Literacy Exam. So that's not, you guys wouldn't care about that. But it's very similar to the Massachusetts tests. And we're going to be building more tests that are very similar to the MTELs, which essentially the alternatives to the communication literacy exams are very, very similar. Tutoring is available for all the programs we mentioned. And Andrew does the history, and there's some other tests we do too. And I've worked with people on a dozen or so different MTELs when they need help with skills and strategies, how to approach it, how to think about multiple choice tests, how to format the open responses. So we'll pretty much do anything we can for people. All right, so I'm going to spare you from having to listen to me anymore, and I will let Andrew pick up, and he'll really take us the rest of the way explaining the FLEX programs.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, Chuck. So I've been for a little bit now, past couple months, been working with some people on the MTEL FLEX, and we have a couple different options for what to choose. So there's the consultation, and basically, I've done some of these where it's one-to-one. You have the opportunity to go through with me. Usually it's around an hour that we just go through, and we go onto the website and actually download the material that's on there that you will need. And we really go through it sort of line by line to see, how to attack it. And, we'll help you sort of make decisions about, what areas do you feel most confident in? Are you most interested in? And then sort of help you pick out what option you want to go with, because you'll see in a minute that each of the FLEX tests that are available, you do have to make choices. There are options, and sometimes that can be pretty challenging to figure out, well, which one do I do? This can be kind of overwhelming. So in the consultation, we go through that and sort of help you pick out which one you would like to do. So that's one of the options. The other option is on the next slide for the review. So where the consultation is really just for you to sort of get to really know the how and why and the ins and outs of the FLEX and how to first approach it, which again can be an overwhelming thing because the MTEL website, there's about 1 million different links and things to access. So, I really try to whittle that down into what do you actually need to know and have it all in one place. So that's the consultation. The review is sort of the next step. when you sort of know how you're going to attack it, and you actually will begin to write. And for the review, that is the opportunity for you to write your flex. Choose what the descriptive statements, and you'll see what I mean by that. If this is new to you, we'll look at what descriptive statement means in a minute. And you'll have the opportunity for me to be able to read through it. I do a review, I'll do some research, I'll make some suggestions for edits. And that could be in terms of content to sort of what are they looking for, as well as formatting, because sometimes, as we all know, with MTEL, the formatting can really make a difference. I think especially with the Flex. And then we would have about a 30-minute Zoom session where we'll review the feedback, ask any questions that you have, and then you can incorporate that into the final essay that you're going to submit. So those are the two options: the consultation and the review. And what we're going to do now is just sort of go through, like, what is the Flex? What are the options for the Flex? How are you even eligible for the Flex? And then we'll go through and look at each of the 6 options that for the tests. So
Hold on a minute here. I went the wrong way.
okay.
Oh
yeah. So yeah, that's where we are. So general overview. Definitely want to start out, first things first, the available tests. You have the multi-subject general curriculum, the general curriculum math, the foundations of reading, the history, the English, and English as a second language. Unfortunately, the other tests that we know that there's a bunch of other MTELs, there aren't flex options for those. These are the ones that there are options for. And there is a, specific eligibility for it. So, unfortunately, the flex, you can't just say, I need to take MTEL, I'm going to do the flex. There are requirements, and I've just included, comes directly from the source, where it says to be eligible for the MTEL flex, you need to meet these requirements. So very specific. They have the specific date of October 20th, 2020. Feels like that was forever ago. And it actually wasn't that long ago, but October 20th, 2020, if you took the test on or after that date, and you did not pass, you may be eligible for the MTEL Flex. If you fall, it says there, within 1 standard error of measurement to the passing score, that, I actually, for each of the specific ones, there are actual numbers that will determine your eligibility. And, the good thing is that if you are eligible, it automatically comes up when you go to register for a test. So if you meet those requirements and you go to register for a test, that'll just come down in the drop-down menu as an option for you to sign up for that MTEL, the actual test, or you could do the flex. So that's just a general overview. A couple other things. They like to point out you still may need to pass other exams, some of which may also have a flex option. You could be eligible to take multiple flex exams. I've worked with some people who said that they were tackling one of them, and when they get through that, they are eligible for a second one. So you'll just need to make sure you're familiar with the eligibility. And then just general tips, that I think it's good to, you want to be clear, focus and on task. You need to use the critical areas and descriptive statements, which we'll talk a little bit about in a minute, and then providing examples. And then I also wanted to include the dates, because this is obviously very important to know. I have this up on my computer at all times because I want to make sure I'm remembering, when the dates are. And, the good thing is that there's a lot of flexibility there. So if you miss, tomorrow is the next available date. If somebody wanted to do that, but they miss it, well, they just have to wait, a few weeks, and then they can get it in for the next time. So the dates of when they're due and when the results come in, it's pretty good. There's a lot of opportunities. So the there's a few like I said, there's 6 different tests that have the flex option, and I want to just take a couple minutes to go through each of them. So this first one is for the general curriculum multi-subject, and they actually give 2 options for that. One option, I call it the history option and the science option. So people I've been working with, it's like if you're more comfortable with history, you go with this option. Unfortunately, that's the only option. And then with science, we'll look at that in a minute. But have the objective here. So if that's what you're choosing, you need to do, understand major developments in the history of the United States and colonial Commonwealth of Massachusetts from pre-colonial times to the present. So you'd choose that. And then from there, you would have to choose from this list of what they call descriptive statements. And as you can see, we're not going to go through all of them, but there are 12 descriptive statements. I generally say choose 3 or 4. You don't want to be too overwhelmed and, go with doing all 12 because you're not going to be able to go deeply enough. You also don't want to do, probably 1. So you would have to choose the descriptive statements to, that is basically how you're going to be answering or showing that you understand that objective through the lens of 3 or 4 of those descriptive statements. And then on top of that, there's a critical area, which, the all important, is this I think, yeah, this is actually the, yeah, sorry, I was saying this is the history test. This is not the, I don't think this is the general curriculum one. Yeah, actually, no, sorry, never mind. I'm getting myself confused. This is the general curriculum. So with the critical area, you would need to, choose 1, and they want specifically just to choose 1 standard directly from the frameworks. They say here 1st through 8th grade from the standards. It says and/or annotated primary source. Generally, I have not been encouraging people to go with the annotated primary source. I think that's kind of a little bit more complicated, and I think choosing a standard is just a lot easier to sort of grasp that. So you're going to choose 1 standard, you're going to choose a few descriptive statements, and that information you are going to use in order to show your understanding of that objective. So that's the history option. The science option is, again, here is the objective. They provide less descriptive statements for this, which, depending on what way you look at it, could be a positive, could be a negative, because there's less to choose from. But you would, again, want to choose, I would recommend about 3 or 4 to choose from there. And then, again, same thing. You would need to reference for the critical area 1, and they specifically state 1. They don't want you to get into doing 2 or 3. So you would need to choose 1 content standard from the framework. And generally, what I recommend to people is, what grade do you teach? What area are you comfortable with? And, that's going to help you sort of guide what you're going to choose there. So that's the science option. So that was the general curriculum multi-subject. For the general curriculum math, there are actually 2 options, right? And obviously both of them are math. So one of them is understand operations on numbers. And, this is generally, if you're teaching the younger grades, this has been generally the way to go. Again, same thing. These are the descriptive statements you need to choose from. So you would need to choose 3 or 4. And then the critical areas for the math, for the general curriculum math, they specifically outline exactly which ones you can choose from. So the multi-subject, there's a lot. You go into the frameworks for history or science, and you can choose basically whatever you want. With the math, it's very specific what you can choose from, and they outline it there. That grade 2 critical area number 2 from the frameworks. Can't choose any of the other ones for grade 2, and then those are the others. So again, you would need to choose one of the standards from the frameworks as sort of the lens for understanding the descriptive statements that are going to help show your understanding of the objective. So that's the first option, understand operations on numbers. The second option, that is for the middle grades, right? Because it's about algebra, right? So understand algebra as generalized arithmetic. So generally what I tell people is, if you're looking to get certified to teach, 2nd, 3rd, 4th grade, you're probably not going to go with this option, right? This is more for 6th, 7th, 8th grade. Less descriptive statements here, but again, I would encourage choosing 3 or 4 probably for this one, more on the side of 3. And so that's the second option for the math. So for the general curriculum math, you would need to choose one of those 2 to go with. So we've looked at multi-subject, we've looked at the general curriculum math. The next one is the foundations of reading. And again, there's two options here. One of them is prepare and organize, develop analysis on a topic related to the development of foundational reading skills. Again, choose descriptive statements. I think for this, generally like probably 1 or 2, I'd say really 2 would be the way to go. And then, I'd call it references here because it's not really critical areas, because you need to choose one of these 4 resources that you need to reference in your Flex. The other ones you can make references there, but that's sort of on you to choose the references. Whereas foundations of reading, you can include other references, but they're saying you have to choose one of these that needs to be referenced when you're talking about the descriptive statements. And then the same goes for option 2 for this. Option 2 is about development of reading comprehension. Same thing, 4 descriptive statements, choose 1, probably 2 is the way to go. And then one of these 2 references you would need to make for this as well. So those are resources you would need to refer to. So that's the foundations of reading. Next would be the history. And this is the fun one. And this is a couple options here. One is more historically oriented. If anyone has taken the history test, I think the first thing that you notice when you're preparing for the history test is this isn't just history. It's geography, it's economics, it's politics and government. So the options for the history are kind of, one is more historically oriented, and it's U.S. history. And it covers a vast range. The descriptive statements can sort of help you narrow your focus. I think especially for the history, because there's so much information, the descriptive statements are really important to pick those out based on what you feel comfortable with, because they do really cover a vast time period. And then critical areas, pretty simple, same thing like the general curriculum multi-subject. Just choose a content standard from 5th through 12th grade, but again, just one content standard. And you'll use that, you'll align that with your descriptive statement to answer your question, or your descriptive statements. So that's the first option. The second option for the history is much more where that one's historically oriented, this is geographically oriented. There's opportunity for you to incorporate history. Certainly, successful history flex essays that I have seen have incorporated some element of history. But this is really testing you much more so on understanding of geography. So same thing, you would need to choose a couple descriptive statements, and then choose a one standard, because they're pretty lengthy standards. You can just choose one in order to align that with your descriptive statements. So that's the history, one historical, one geographic. The English is, the first option, again, two options here. One, prepare an organized, developed, written analysis of a literary or informational text. Again, choose, 3-4 descriptive statements there. And just like the English, you would need to align it with a content standard from 5th through 12th grade. So this one is this is focused on analyzing literature. The second option for English is a written analysis of an argument. So again, you're going to choose, said 3 to 4 descriptive statements. I think given that there's 5, probably more likely you'd want to focus on just 3 for this one. And then same thing, critical areas, choose one, 5th through 12th as your sort of lens for being able to answer this question. So that's the English. And then the last option, the 6th test, is English as a second language. And there's a little bit more specific information on this. I think the other ones are much more like there's A, B, C, right? You have to choose your prompt. You got to choose your descriptive statement. You got to choose your critical area. This one, there's another element involved. But again, there's 2 options for this. So first one is, oral language instruction for English language learners. Same thing though, choose 3 to 4 descriptive statements. Critical area, you would, it says indicate your submission if your submission will analyze your authentic student data or examples of like sample data. So that's the critical area. You have to choose that it's either going to be your own data or sample data, and you would need to specify that. Then the last step in the English as a second language is similar to the foundations. You need to reference one of the things from the list. So it needs to be from that list. You need to have something that you reference. You need to have student data, either real or sample, and then the descriptive statements. And then it's the same thing for the second option. The second option is, whereas the first one's oral instruction, the second one is writing instruction. And it's the same thing, student data, real or sample, and then references. It's actually the same things, the same options that you have for option 1. So that was a really brief overview of all of the different options. If you were to do the consultation, that is 1-to-1, and we would really be able to dig into like the specifics of like choosing a descriptive statement and critical areas and all of that. So I know I talked a lot, and encourage anyone to ask any questions, because that really was a lot of information on a lot of different tests.
I do want to add that there is one other flex. The Spanish can be passed with flex. However, no hablemos español well enough to help anybody with that. But if anyone does have Spanish, I can try to find someone who'd be able to help with that. I know people who teach the language and could probably dig someone up that would be able to help. But it's not something that we can do regularly unless, there was a demand and we brought someone else in, which wouldn't be a problem, but we wouldn't do that unless we had cause to do so. There's a lot of information. We will have a Q&A now, so feel free to send in some questions. And what I'll do now is I'll put the link to the website and, a discount code if you sign up in the next 24 hours, I think they set up. You can get 20% off any of the prices you saw in there for the Flex. All right, so that is in there. And hi, Laurie. Laurie's a student of mine, been around for a while. And the general curriculum is changing in the fall. We won't know anymore until they publish, some practice questions. And, they say late summer, early fall. So hopefully by late fall next year, we'll know what is we're in store for, and we'll have, programs to meet that need when we get there. All right, questions in here.
Yeah, there's a few.
Andrew, go ahead, pick.
So I'll take the first one that I'll go with. It's the easiest. Someone asked, just to confirm, you can take the Flex more than once. Yes. Yeah. So that's an easy one to answer. As of right now, there isn't any sort of limit on the number of times that you can take it. Another question says, so Carlene asked, working on the foundations of reading Flex, you mentioned picking one or two. How long does the Flex need/should be? So they do outline, it cannot exceed the 3 pages. However, as you may be able to guess, it doesn't have to be exactly 3 pages. My recommendation is generally, like, you want to try to get it as close to 3 pages as you can. I would often advise, if there was like a 1-page Flex essay, I would encourage that to not be what you would submit. I think that the fact that they allow you 3 pages means that they would probably guess that to adequately answer the question, you would you would need roughly 3 pages. Typically, I've said more or less, as long if you have, like, if you get to the 2-page mark and you get a little bit into the 3rd page, you're probably in pretty good shape. I wouldn't encourage any less than that. But as long as you're in the ballpark close to 3 pages, I think that you're going to be in good shape there. Question here from Ashley. Do they give you the sample data for the ESL Flex if not using your own student work? No. So I think you would need to find that. Yeah, you'd need to find that online, and you would need to reference it. Trying to see. I don't think I see any other questions.
Sample data for the Flex, ESL Flex. Did you answer that one?
Oh yes, yes, yeah. That was the one. The sample data. Yeah, they don't provide that. That you would need to get on your own.
I might have missed it. I was responding to the questions about the chat and the code. So if I missed it, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Any other questions, comments, or anything?
I definitely recognize that was a lot of information. So
someone just asked a question in the chat.
All right.
Discussed how the mass curriculum framework should be used in the Flex for the foundations. And Carol's here too. So Carol, if you have any idea on this, feel free to chime in.
Discuss how MA curriculum framework should be used in the MTEL Flex for the foundations of reading. So I think so with the foundations, it's really just like, here, let me look back and see. I just want to refer to exactly what the wording is under the critical areas for the foundations. So yeah, so for the foundations, you actually don't need to refer to the frameworks. So unlike the other ones, you need to have like, you need to actually tell them like, this is the actual content standard that I'm referring to. For the foundations of reading, instead of, in place of that, that was the one where there were like the links to the different things that you need to reference. So I think that that's what is in place of using the content standards, is just one of the MTEL approved reference sheets. You need to use one of those.
And Ashley, the error of measurement, that, like when you study statistics, or if you have like a standard deviation, have you ever kind of studied stats before? I don't know exactly how they said it, but that's pretty much what it is. They take how everybody scores on the test, and they pick a certain statistic that measures kind of how close people are, and they can tweak that a little bit too. But like a scale test, the better everyone does, the harder it is to pass. And the worse people do, generally, the easier it is, because they scale it, right? So it moves a little bit. That's a statistical phenomenon, and this standard error of measurement that factors into that statistic. So it's going to be a little different at every test because of just how people do in that test, how similar the scores are, how spread the scores are, how many people pass, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and just in terms of the specific numbers, it is a little bit different. It ranges from, and I can't remember which specific test this is. One of them, the lowest score that you can get, 227 to be eligible for it. But that's only one of them. And again, I can't remember which one it is. It might be the ESL one. The others, all the others, it's generally 230 or 231. So 230 or 231 up to 239. So that's for most of them what you're eligible.
I wrote a blog on this a few months ago. And so I'll put the link to the blog, and the blog has the actual score that you need to get to qualify. I'll post it in here in a second. And yes, you don't have to check through Department of Ed, but as Andrew said before, if you qualify when you register for the MTEL, the Flex will be an option. And if you didn't qualify, it won't be an option. All right, but you can use the blog here to check if you don't want to go look in 15 places on the DOE site. I'll find it for you here.
So someone asked, if you don't pass the Flex, do you recommend taking the actual test again or Flex? I think that would be a matter of what is your sort of comfort level in terms of after you took the Flex, after you took the test, which one do you think would be the sort of more likely one that you would do better with? So that would be my recommendation. It's going to change person to person. Some people would say, I didn't pass the Flex, but making changes to it and sort of regrouping things might be enough, which for some people that is. But other people, they may have taken the Flex, didn't pass it, and been like, I don't want to deal with that again. I'm going to take the test again. And that's fine. I think whatever you're most comfortable with.
Let me jump in for Maria here. She's asking, do the questions change when you take the actual MTELs? And they do, but there's a lot of repeating. All right. Essentially, for the test that we've been working for a long time, we have all the open responses. All right. For the ones that are new, we'll gather the information as we go through. The multiple choice questions, it seems like they have a bank of a certain number of them, and they randomly generate a portion of them for every test. So you will see the same questions over and over again, but it won't be exactly the same. You might get 30, 40% overlap every time you see a test. And someone asked here, do you have a sample of a written Flex, Andrew? That's Melissa. Hey, Melissa, how are you?
So that's the thing, is I've been sort of keeping an eye on the MTEL. Like they say on their website, one of the top questions is, do you have a sample? And they say, we're working on getting that out there. I have looked at a bunch that people have sort of submitted. And that gives me sort of a good sense of what they look like for particularly the general curriculum multi-subject and the math. But I've seen several for the history recently as well. But in terms of what like MTEL has put out, like they don't have one that they've released yet.
Waiting period, I don't know. I think the only waiting period is that time between when they take it and the post date, right? Once you get your score back, I think you could take it again. It's not like you have to wait 45 days like the actual MTEL, right?
No, you don't. I mean, so the unfortunate thing with those dates, and that's why I think it's really important, and I'm always keeping an eye on it, is that, for instance, February 24th was when the score report was released for if you submitted it February 2nd. However, March 2nd, which is tomorrow, is the day that you need to submit the new one by. So, you'll notice from the list, there's not a ton of time in between, this is when the report is released and this is when the next round is due. So they don't really leave a ton of space for that. However, if February 24th had come around, you didn't pass it, you're more than welcome to get that submitted March 2nd. There's no limits on that.
All right, so looking back here, Tanya said she go to 233, suggest flex or test. And as Andrew said, I think it's a preference. Depends on what test it is and how close you are. You could always reach out. We could always talk about this too, Tanya, right? We could always say, hey, send me your score report. Let's take a look. How close do we think we are? Take a look at what the flex would entail. And then you got to say, is it worth the time to put into the flex, or just, study a little bit in certain areas and try the MTEL again. And Maria, about this self-paced math course, it's very different. The test and the flex are very, very different. So wait, hold on. You're saying, oh, you're talking about the real MTEL, right? Okay, so Maria, yes, the information in my self-paced math class, study those. Study the real multiple choice questions, study the open responses, and you'll be very happy. You'll see those again. You will see those again. And are they getting rid of the flex? They just brought the flex in a year or so ago. If you notice, everything they're doing with the MTEL is making it easier to get certified. The alternative to the communication literacy are designed to have more people pass. The flex assessments, more people to pass. The new early childhood looks easier. I know someone on the committee who was a student of mine who was on the committee to change the early childhood test. And she said, I can't tell you much, but what I can say is that one of the goals is to get more people to pass, because it was a little ridiculous what they had people need to know before, who were never going to teach that stuff. So it's better that they have it, because more people will pass, and there's a teaching shortage. So I think, if anything, MTELs will be on the way out over the next 5-10 years, because we won't have enough teachers to teach. So they're not going to get rid of these things. If anything, they're going to make it easier, which is good news for all you guys. And we don't know about the new math general curriculum. I don't know if they the general curriculum, they're reorganizing it, right? They're going to have 2 tests just like now, but it'll be math science and one will be English history. I don't know if they're just reorganizing it or they're changing the content as well. And we won't know until they release some practice information and, we end up taking the test. So I'm hoping that they just reorganize it. And it's selfish of me to say that, because it just means a lot more work for me to redo my whole program. But they may do something similar to the early childhood, where they're making it easier to pass. The has been successful. Let Andrew talk about this. We've been successful getting people to pass. I know Carol has had the same experience where she's been successful helping people pass the test.
Yeah. So, I got to be honest. I've been working with a lot of people, over the past few weeks who have not, they're in the process of it and submitting it. So I'd say most of the people, since it's fairly, we've started this pretty recently. Most of the people who I've worked with either are submitting it tomorrow or are going to be working on it through March and going to be submitting it at the end of March. However, I have worked with some people. People are passing the test who have submitted it. So yes, to answer your question, yes, people are passing. But to be honest, many of the people I've been working with recently are in the process of submitting it and will be submitting also, at the end of the month.
Yeah.
I know, Carol, I just wanted to point out here, Carol said, the foundations of reading prompts are exactly like the actual MTEL. You may use your own testing and data from an approved assessment. Students are used to prepping for the test, so using all 4 descriptive statements makes sense. So yeah, I think that's for the foundations. I think that's great. Yeah, definitely like the 4 descriptive statements are good to go with for the foundations of reading. I think some of the other ones where there's like 12 descriptive statements, especially history, there's like a huge amount of history in there that you wouldn't even want to try to incorporate all of that. But yeah, definitely the foundations, there's, it's more similar. So using all 4, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So thank you, Carol.
Melissa's asking about the flex, and if you don't pass it, they give you information like to tell you what you did wrong, what you need to improve on.
Yeah, so I mean, the feedback form, I gotta say it's pretty limited in terms of what information they provide for you. There is sort of a way to decipher it. If you look at it's available on the website, the MTEL handbook, or the MTEL FLEX handbook is a really good resource, because that sort of tells you how the areas of scoring. And when you get the actual results for the feedback, it doesn't like say which category it is, but I've sort of been able to decipher like this line is referring to this thing, this line is referring to this thing. And it's sort of broken down into 4 different categories of how they are scoring it. And you can sort of, it's 1 through 4. They do it on a 1 through 4 scale, with 4 being the highest. And I've found a way to be able to basically decipher like, what does a 2 mean? What does a 3 mean? What does a 4 mean? And what I've seen from some people sending me their feedback, that there oftentimes is a mix of some people getting some 3s and getting some 2s, but you need to get a 3 in each of the 4 different categories in order to pass.
It's not an average; it's 3 across the board. You have to get.
It would be 3 across the board, but they don't say if it's a 2, a 3, or a 1. It's just from the comments I've been able to basically figure out, well, this comment aligns with the 3, or this comment aligns with the 2. Many that I've been seeing, the comment aligns with a 2.5 because half the comments a 2 and half the comments a 3. So yeah, that's it. It can be a little tricky to figure out the feedback. I've been seeing people have been sending me a lot of the feedback forms when they had failed it previously, and just sort of asking like, what's this? What is this all meaning? So I've been helping people figure out like, oh, this is how to interpret this, because they don't give you a lot, fortunately.
And my Tewksbury friend here, Marie, is asking about the timeline. What's the process timeline of submitting materials? I have no idea. Let Andrew speak on this one.
Yeah, so in terms of have the dates on there, which you would want to make sure you keep an eye on that. Obviously, like an essay for school, you got to write a 3-page essay. You probably don't want to start it the night before, right? But I'd say timeline, you definitely want to give yourself plenty of time. So, for instance, right now, March 1st. You're thinking about getting that together. It's due tomorrow if you want to get it in for tomorrow, but you know, that's a way too quick of a turnaround. The next one's March 30th. So I think that knowing that timeline, I think that's pretty good. That gives you a month to work on it. That gives you the opportunity to work on the essay, you know, let me know any questions you might have along the way. And then you can get that to me in plenty of time, you know, before you need to submit it, so that I have some time to read through it, give some feedback, make some edits. We can meet, and then you can incorporate the feedback into your work. You know, some people, they're okay with doing that, you know, finishing up the day before. Personally, for me, you know, I like to give myself some time. So I think with the March 30th deadline in mind, you know, you would want to sort of pace yourself throughout the course of the month if you were doing that, and just give yourself plenty of time. So I hope that sort of answers your question.
And Maria, I just posted the blog in there again, where it lists all the flexes and the minimum scores you need depending on the flex you want, because they're all different. Did I miss anything? Any other questions that people have?
I'm going to look back in the Q&A, Chuck, to see.
Yeah.
So someone asked, how much work and time does the flex take to do? You know, I think that really varies depending on the individual, and you know, we all have busy lives, and it's you know, I've worked with some people who they work on it, they let it sit for a little bit, and then they return to it. You know, if that's how you work, I think that's perfectly fine. I know for me, if I'm sort of reviewing your work, I'll usually spend like a couple hours looking at it. But again, yeah, I think that with that question, that really varies depending on your comfort level with the material and the subject, and you know, but definitely want to make sure you give yourself plenty of time. So I think having sort of a month to do it seems like a pretty good amount.
There's a question about the foundations that just came in.
Can you use reading assessments that your school uses to interpret the data? I'm pretty sure yes. I'm not 100% sure of that. I think so. Carol may know that better.
Thinking about, I should have had Carol join us in the panel. You know, it's been busy. It's been a busy week. And Tanya asked about the early childhood. I doubt we'll get a flex because they just changed the test, but if passing rates stay low, they might add it. Because again, I think the goal is to get more teachers certified and in the schools, because I don't know like about you guys, but my district's short. I know there's shortages all over the place. It's a tough time.
One thing I meant to on that. So Carol said yes, you may use data from school assessments. Excellent. So one thing I wanted to add, I saw this. I was browsing yesterday, and I need to dig a little bit more into it. I thought I saw somewhere general science was mentioned as a flex. It's not currently on the website as a flex, but I don't know if anyone is interested in that. Is that even? I haven't seen it, but I did see that somewhere. So I want to do a little bit more research to see if that is a thing that they may be adding. You know, wouldn't surprise me at all if there are some tests, you know, English and history are on there, but you know, you can't do it for biology. Well, maybe that'll change. I don't know.
Right. Yeah, I think the next year or so will be very flexible in this world because of all the changes. They've redone most of the tests over the last year or two and into this next year. So we'll see. It's a lot of answers we don't have. And, you know, the answers will unfold themselves as time goes on. And, you know, we try to keep up with all that stuff, of course, as well as we can. Say added the science flex. Okay.
Okay.
I'll check and see if it's actually in the on the list. I haven't seen it. You can check.
Yeah, I'll keep an eye on that, and I can be prepared for that if anyone's interested in it as soon as they add it.
Yep. All right. Anything else? All right. I really appreciate everybody's time. Any MTEL needs, reach out. A lot of you guys have my information. My number is on the website. I can put it in here too. You can call me anytime, text me. Text is probably easier. And I'll answer any questions you have. You're very welcome, everybody. Don't forget, we're around, we're available, and look forward to seeing you guys in class or working with you in other ways. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, everyone.